fiction, fairy tales, and the fairer sex. I'm Faith Moore, and I'm really excited because it is Downton Day here on Princess State of Mind. I have my official teacup here, and also I'm wearing my official Downton Abbey earrings, which are actually Downton Abbey earrings. Like, they have a whole line of jewelry, and I have, of course, 2 pairs. And I'm wearing mine, and I'm super excited to have with me today to talk all things Downton and the Downton Abbey movie, Classically Abby, from the Classically Abby YouTube channel and blog. Hi, Abby. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Yes. Did you know that Downton Abbey had a jewelry line?
I didn't. I think maybe I found out. So did you? I don't know if you saw this. In New York, a couple of years ago, they had a Downton Abbey exhibit.
Yes, and I didn't go, and I'm sad.
So I was just wandering around on my own, and I passed it, and I happened to have a couple of hours free, and I went inside, and I loved it.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, so my budget for today does not include me buying these earrings, even though I want them. But I did get to walk around and see all the costumes and look at all of the sets. It was really cool, actually. So
yes, I know. I'm very jealous. I didn't get to do that, and I definitely got these as a present. I would not have bought them for myself. But
amazing.
Anyway, so Classically Abby is a blogger, a YouTuber, a fashionista, an opera singer, a makeup artist, and can be found pretty much on every single social media that exists as Classically Abby, right?
Yes. So, I tried to make it as clear as possible across everything.
That's excellent. I know. Sometimes it's like you try that and you can't get your
right. Your name. I was actually surprised. I was like, oh, Classically Abby is available on everything.
Well, it's good. It's a good name. And do you want to say what that means? I think it has a little bit of a double entendre, right?
Yeah. So basically the idea is I'm a classical opera singer. So that's kind of my signature Classically Abby thing. But I also try to live a more classic lifestyle. So my kind of motto is let's be classic. Let's dress classically. Let's do our makeup classically. Let's enjoy each other's company classically instead of, everything being online if we can avoid it. And, traditional relationships, that's kind of my favorite thing. So let's be classic.
Amazing. And that is perfect for our discussion right now about Downton Abbey, I think, which is a classic, and also a sort of classic, back to a sort of classic way of living, I think, which is part of the appeal of the show, at least for me. So first, I'm going to just say we will probably be doing some mild spoilers for the movie. Let's try not to sort of reveal any huge plot points, but I think it's fine for us to get to talk about some of the things. And I also think that any spoilers from the show are allowed. Like, if people have not seen the show,
right,
that's on them. So we're gonna do all kinds of spoilers for the show and mild spoilers for the movie. So we'll just get that out there.
All of the major spoilers. I think we can talk about like some plot points.
I'm with you. Good. Okay. So I know that you, like me, are a huge Downton fan, and I think stuck with it all the way to the end. Yes. Okay. So tell me what it is about this show that you love so much.
Well, in the same way that I think, so this is for me on kind of the other end of the spectrum of Mad Men. I don't know if you ever watched that show, but it was...
I must admit I turned it off.
Yes. And I think that was a good choice.
Oh, good. Okay.
I watched Mad Men. I wrote a whole review on it. I kind of watched it all on Netflix after it was already released. Yeah. And for the same reason, I think people love Downton Abbey. There's sort of the same attraction to Mad Men, which is that it's period. And people like seeing things where it's like really in a different era. And that's really visually stunning and exciting and different than what we're used to. So that's one reason I loved Downton Abbey. I mean, it's gorgeous to watch, and it's so fun to see all the fashions from different times. Every year when they would like shoot forward a couple of years and all of a sudden they're in different fashions, you're like, oh, this is great.
Yes, it was beautiful.
Yeah, just stunning. And then, of course, I just love the characters. They take the time, and I really appreciated this because they have so many characters to develop every single individual. And that's so cool that they gave us as the audience the opportunity to meet all of these different people that we could fall in love with.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I felt very much that the reason I wanted to go see this movie was not necessarily, I could tell from the previews that it probably wasn't going to be that great.
Yeah.
But I just really wanted to go visit my friends. I felt such a connection to these characters in a way that really usually only characters from a book can do for me.
Yes.
I
totally
felt
agree with that.
these, and I remember there was one season, I can't remember which one it was, but the season ended, and I was just like, I feel like I'm in withdrawal. You know, I was like watching all of the like extra features, you know, and
Yes.
everything. I just felt like I need to be with these people. And
Yes,
so,
they're like your friends. You feel like you've made all of these friends, and then all of a sudden they're gone. So it's like, oh, I get to revisit them and reunite with them in the movie.
yes. And so that was sort of how I went into the movie, was I just want to see how all of my friends are doing. Are they okay? What's going on with them? Are there any more problems that I need to be aware of and worry about,
Right.
or are they fine? And I felt like it delivered on that. What were your hopes for the movie going into it?
Yeah, I would say it was similar. I kind of knew. So I just moved. I don't have a lot of girlfriends here yet. So I knew I was probably going to be going alone. My husband
Yeah.
was like, I love you, but maybe I'm not going to see this movie with you.
I had actually convinced my husband to go, and we had a babysitter and everything, and then my kid got sick.
Oh
So
no.
we didn't. I went by myself too, because I had to just run
Right.
out and go at a different time.
Yeah,
But yeah,
exactly. So I went, it was actually hilarious. I went to the theater and I sat down, and this woman, like 3 seats down from me, looks at me and sees I'm alone. And she's like, did your husband not want to come either? And I was like, yes. And she said, I'm using this as my birthday present.
that's amazing. That's amazing. Yeah, there were a lot of women alone watching the movie. Yeah.
But I was just really excited to see exactly what it was going on at Downton. And I like seeing if maybe there's some plot points. And mostly part of me was like, okay, I hope someone has a baby. I hope someone's gonna have another baby. But yeah, I just kind of wanted to catch up with all of our favorite characters upstairs and downstairs.
Yes, agreed. And so, did it deliver? Did you feel like it did that for you?
So this is the thing for me, is I've started to distinguish between enjoying a movie and it being a good movie.
Yeah, there's definitely a distinction.
Yeah, like there are movies that I know are terrible, and I will watch them if, like, not that I have cable anymore, but when I did have cable, it was kind of that thing where you would flip through channels and
Right.
you'd come on that movie that isn't a good movie, but you would always stop on and watch. It's like
Definitely.
that. It's like a movie I enjoy, I have fun with, it makes me feel good, but like on a craft level, it's like fine. That's kind of how I feel about this movie. It was good to watch and see everybody and like enjoy the visuals and the music, which was, everything was heightened.
Yes.
I don't think it was like an incredible plot.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, it definitely felt to me like, in the same way that we were sort of hoping to go and see our friends, the filmmakers were kind of doing that for us, that they knew that was why we came. So I felt like, you know, that opening shot where, you know, the letter from, so the plot of the movie is that the king and queen come to Downton, right? So that scene where, you know, the letter from the king and queen is arriving on the train, and then it goes in the car, and then it goes in the bicycle, and then the bicycle goes down the path, and there's Downton Abbey, and then it's like Downton Abbey. I just felt like, oh, they know what they're doing. Every scene is just like, here is the house, and then the next scene is like, here's Lady Mary, and what she's doing. Here's like the downstairs and what they're doing. I just felt like every scene was sort of like trying to deliver that for us, and that the plot was sort of taking a backseat to just, here are all these people that you know and love, and they're fine, and everything's okay, and you know that's okay. So yeah. So
really, the thing that I noticed was that it was interesting because it's almost like they had so many characters and they wanted to make sure you saw all of them, and then it was like, okay, let's fit them all in. You all get this much time. Like 25, like 2 hours divided by 25 people is how many minutes per person. That's a little
exactly
bit
right. And it was, every scene was sort of like, and you know, someone moves aside and there's Anne. You know, someone moves aside and there's, you know, Branson, and it's kind of like the introduction of these people. And by the time they were done with that, that was the end of the movie. Right. So, but I think, you know, it's nice that they knew what we were there for, and that we knew what we were there for. So who are the people, who are your characters from this show? Who are your friends?
Who are my friends? Okay.
Yeah, who do you love most in Downton Abbey?
Yes. Well, Anna for sure.
Same.
Like, I adore her. Anna and Bates are the best couple on the show. I love them.
I knew I liked you.
And I just always enjoyed, you know, catching up with those characters, because she was always the sweetest person who also had the most principles, in my opinion. So that meant that sometimes if she couldn't be sweet and also have her principles, she was going to have her principles first. And I really respect that about her character. which I actually liked in this movie because there was a moment where she had to do the same again.
Mm-hmm.
She had to kind of address those principles, and she did it, and it was like, oh yay, the Anna we know and love.
Yes, that was totally the right thing to do, it seemed like.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then surprisingly, I always rooted for Edith. I thought Edith kind of got the rough end of the stick, and I was happy that she was the one who ended up in marrying like the highest level of man. I thought that was really
Which was sort of her dream come true, even though she had moved on a little bit to being a working woman, etc. It kind of had been her dream all along to be somehow above her sisters, because she was always kind of the black sheep of the family.
Right, exactly. So I always loved her character. And then, I mean, Tom's great. Tom, he made his family out of these people who originally he like totally resented. And that was always a lovely kind of dynamic between the Crawleys and Tom, and then Mary and his relationship. Mary was never my favorite character. I don't know how you feel about it.
I really loved the Mary Matthew romance. The whole sort of saga of that was, I mean, just how they were on again and off again, and now he's at war, and now there's Lavinia, and he's paralyzed, and just the melodrama of that really resonated with me. But I feel very much that now that Matthew is gone, I don't particularly care about Mary as much anymore. I think Michelle Dockery is an amazing actress, and I think that she really pulls off that character very well, because she is a very prickly character who could be really difficult to like, but I think that she is somebody that you kind of do root for. And especially, in the movie, she's having all these doubts about Downton and where it should go, et cetera. And I think that a lot has been placed on her shoulders, so I sort of appreciate that. But yeah, she's never been my favorite. I will
agree with you totally, because for me what it was I felt like within the first, I think it was the second season that she and Matthew got together.
Yes.
And for me, I felt like there was a huge kind of character arc for her from the first season through the second. And then after Matthew died, I always felt like she kind of regressed and just kind of came back to who she was at the beginning, which is disappointing, because of course you always want to see your favorite characters, grow, and then for them to move backwards sort of in an effort so that they can have a second character arc that's similar to the first one.
Right.
That you're kind of like, okay. So I don't think it was actually Lady Mary's fault that was the character situation that kind of happened, but I agree with you. I thought that the whole discussion in the movie of what's going to happen to Downton next and having that be on her shoulders, that I was thinking the same thing. I think the audience is always wondering, okay, but this is the 20s. Now we're going to imagine Downton Abbey in the 70s and the 80s. How is this going to work?
Right. Well, because with so much of Downton Abbey, it's so ludicrous. They obviously are going to have to get rid of they can't just keep living here with the servants as everybody gets liberated and, is able to vote and things like that. That's not going to fly, really. So I think they were sort of trying to tell us that we're just going to continue to live in this fantasy world where this is so important. And I think they've had this idea throughout the whole show that the reason that Downton and houses like this are so important is they provide employment for the downstairs people, which is sort of like, okay, but maybe they could be doing something else. That's fine. So I think they just want us to continue to live in this fantasy world, and I, for one, am happy to continue to live in this fantasy world.
Me too. I'm like, yes, please. And then when Anna was like, "It's for us, we need it," I'm like, yes, okay, I'm on board.
Yes, like, sure. Stay. Yeah. So. And Anna and Bates, I think the show kind of jumped the shark after Matthew died. I think that they didn't know that he was going to leave. And I think it really threw the, Julian Fellows and all the creators of the show for a huge loop, and they didn't really know what to do after that. So I think the show just kind of really fell off a cliff. But I stayed because I love Bates and Anna so much. I love their characters. I love their stories. And even though their stories also kind of became very odd, and there was that horrible assault rape situation that happened, which was very traumatic.
Yes.
I still just really wanted to make sure that they were okay. And I'm very glad that at the end they got to have a child, because everybody who's struggling with fertility needs to go to Mary's doctor. She has this magical doctor where, like, if the plot doesn't call for you to have a child yet, you have a problem. And then when it's ready, when the plot is ready for you to have a baby, you go to this magic doctor. So I wish that doctor existed in real life.
Yeah, that would be great.
That would be amazing. It's like magical, just sort of flick a switch and you get to have a baby. But anyway, so I just really was hanging on there. And so one issue that I actually felt like I had with the movie was part of the appeal of the show to me is these love stories. So the grand sweeping romance of Mary and Matthew, the sort of sweet, traumatic at times romance of Bates and Anna, and even the sort of quiet, deep love of Lord and Lady Grantham.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
And then you have Sybil and Tom, which was
Sybil and Tom running off together. Exactly. But I felt like in the movie, all of those have been wrapped up because the show ended. And, Branson gets to have a little bit of love, which is nice. And Thomas gets some love. But really everyone else is kind of, everything else
is already settled.
Yeah. And, and they've got their kids and who all seem to be the wrong ages. Did you notice that?
I noticed that too. I was like, what is happening? I'm so confused. But also, okay, maybe I'm forgetting something, but they each have one, right?
Well, Mary was pregnant at the end. So she and Henry Talbot have a child,
that's what's happening.
I guess was the girl.
I was like, why is there a fourth child?
Yes, and also Bates and Anna's kid is allowed to live in the nursery, which is completely unrealistic. But that's why she's still working there, is because Mary said that their child could live in the nursery. But even so, Mary's child with Matthew was a boy, and so the girl that she picks up in the middle of the movie is clearly like 5.
Yeah.
Do we know how much time has passed? I think the movie is supposed to take place in 1927. So I don't.
Yeah, that's what I thought too.
Yeah, I don't think that much time has passed. But
no.
Okay.
What's going on? Well, who are the children? What are their ages? What's going on?
What's happening? We don't know. There's just a bunch of children, and they all seem to be interchangeable and not belong to anyone in particular.
That's how I felt too.
Yeah. Yes. That's fine. We'll just put that.
Gloss over that.
We'll gloss over the children. That's okay. And so the love stories. So I was going to ask you your favorite, but it sounds like you agree Bates and Anna is your favorite love story.
Yes, Bates and Anna, and Matthew and Mary at the beginning for sure, but unfortunately, the thing I thought was also very kind of odd was that Mary and Matthew Good, what's his character's name?
Henry Talbot. I had to look this up. Henry Talbot.
I have a list of characters in front of me. There are too many for me to remember.
Amazing.
So Henry Talbot's character wasn't in the movie. I was very confused by that because I was like, that's probably the relationship that we as an audience have seen the least of.
Yes.
The show. So that would be interesting for me. Even if we're not getting to see a developing love story in the movie, can we at least see the relationships between the characters who all kind of resolved in the end of the last season?
Yeah. Well, one thing I thought, and I was going to ask you this too, is so they definitely seemed to want us to feel that the grandest love story of all in the show was between Mary and Henry Talbot, because they sort of saved him for the end. They kept him out of the movie, and then he sort of drives up and runs up the stairs like, "Oh, Mary, I've been missing you so much while I've been in Chicago or somewhere." And then, they're in this passionate embrace. Mm-hmm. And my feeling is like, basically you're rubbing in my face that Matthew is gone. I don't feel, oh, thank goodness her wonderful husband, Mr. Car dealership dude, is back. And now they're married. I felt like, oh, I want this so badly to be Matthew. Yes. If that scene had happened and Matthew had driven up and like magically he's alive, and I feel like that scene would have made sense to me.
Oh my God, I would have started bawling if that happened.
Yeah, I think, I mean, it would have made no sense, but
it would have made no sense, but I would have loved it.
It would have been fantastic. They should have just had the alternate universe in which Matthew drives up in the car. But I felt like they were sort of trying to make us feel like this was the grand love story of the show, and clearly it wasn't.
Yeah.
How do you feel though about this guy for her? Do you think, since Matthew was gone and he can't come back, did you feel that this Talbot guy measured up, or did you wish for someone?
He kind of came out of nowhere. That's how I felt when I first watched the show. I was like, personal. I love Matthew Good. I think he's a very handsome and great actor. So I was like, I love this guy, but who are you?
Yeah.
He spent so much time with these other two suitors over like the course of a season or two,
Yes.
that when Matthew Good's character, Henry Talbot, arrived and was like, we're going to be the ones who end up together. I was kind of, interesting choice. Don't know where this is coming from. I guess I trust you.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know how you felt.
Yeah, I guess my feeling was that of those different suitors that they threw in her face in the last season, he was the best in the sense that she needs someone who is sort of not going to take any of her sass. And he was someone who was kind of enigmatic, and he didn't just throw himself at her, and he was different, and he wasn't kind of the person that everybody wanted her to marry. So I think in that sense it was fine. I wish, that they had spent more time on that relationship, since she had this grand love affair. It would have been nice to have her find someone, someone who was so different, maybe that we understood how she could put Matthew's memory aside and continue to love him, but now love this other person. And it didn't.
Exactly. But it's hard because the whole relationship with Matthew was so drawn out and well drawn.
Right.
That I don't think they could have gotten any other character to match with her and have us care as much as we did for these two characters. No,
I agree. I think it was just a sort of sad thing that whatever his name is that plays Matthew.
I can look really quick. Hold on.
I know his name, but Stephen whatever. Anyway, he just left the show. I think that sort of ruined everything for everyone, essentially.
Yeah, I know. And I totally agree that it jumped the shark after he left, because I think the writers were just kind of scrambling to figure out, okay, what do we do next here?
Yeah, we can live without Sybil, I think, but we can't really live without
Matthew. And because Matthew and Mary were the center of the show, they were. So
right. And it was obvious that they couldn't make him just have to go off to America or something and appear every so often, because she would have gone with him and then she would be gone too. And that's the show right there.
Exactly.
So,
and of course, I didn't get to mention that I, of course, love Violet. Violet's amazing. The dowager.
Yes, she is fantastic. She must be like 300 years old within the timeline of the story. And Maggie Smith herself has said, I can't be in this anymore because she's clearly dead. She must be dead. Right?
Makes sense.
Yeah, but she keeps coming back. So with the love stories in the movie left something to be desired.
Yes.
The other thing about the show for me, of course, was just the melodrama. I mean, basically this was a soap opera with amazing acting and sets and costumes, etc. Right. It was just kind of this, we're going to just play with your emotions until your emotions can't take it anymore. Yes. Did you feel like the movie delivered on the typical Downton melodrama, or was that lacking? For me, there was one moment when Molesley talked to the Queen. I literally covered my face. Like I couldn't.
I know. I was like,
which is kind of the amazing thing, because without being immersed in that world, so I'm not going to give the scene away, but there's a scene where Molesley sort of steps in it basically, and without being immersed in that world, I don't think we would have any idea why.
Right.
It was so upsetting.
That's true. It's like only as a Downton Abbey watcher would you be like.
I really was like, I have to leave. I hate like embarrassing things on screen.
Right?
Like,
I
hate that like embarrassing humor. I just can't. So I was just like, and people around me were like, everybody. So I feel like there was that one moment. Did you feel like there was any high drama, or was that sort of lacking for you in the movie?
I mean, the funny thing about the movie is that they definitely chose to go with like a smallish premise. The king and queen are visiting for a night.
Right.
Just have to get the house ready.
That's it.
So it's kind of like, okay, so we know that this isn't going to be big drama. If they kind of started off the movie with, or the premise was something to the effect of, these people are going to be, someone died in the beginning, and like now we have to deal with the fallout. That would be a really dramatic situation, and that would make sense. But the king and queen coming for a night, maybe not the most dramatic of situations.
No.
I did think it was interesting, kind of the interplay between the king and queen servants and the Downton servants.
Right.
I didn't necessarily know if I agreed with that characterization of the Downton servants. I wasn't sure if that was really how they would have responded to basically the king and queen servants come in, they say, we're taking over operations. and the Downton servants, you just go where you just go away. Like we're gonna take care of it. And the Downton servants don't take kindly to that, which is, I think, true to character. But then the response maybe less so.
Especially that Bates and Anna were leading the response.
Yeah, that felt super weird to me.
It did, because I feel like they are, like you were saying, they are almost the most principled characters in the show. I mean, the whole beautifulness of their romance was that he knew he couldn't be with her because he was married. I mean, it would have been so easy for him to just sort of jump into bed with her or something, and he doesn't, and that's what makes it so heart-wrenching and beautiful when they do end up getting to be together. So the idea that these very principled people would lead and interact
tables and like
it
seems so odd to me. There are other characters that I could for sure, like if Daisy had led it.
I thought it should have been Daisy. Yeah.
That would have made total sense to me. But like Anna and Bates, and then even Carson being like, okay.
He would never have done that. I'm sorry.
No, he wouldn't. He wouldn't have done that. Mrs. Hughes maybe would have done it because she's kind of sassy.
Yes.
But like the three characters that they chose to portray in the way that they did, Anna, Bates, and Carson, I was like, this doesn't seem as realistic.
Yeah. No, I agreed with that. That hit a wrong note for me also. Mm-hmm. So I do not want to end this without discussing the clothes, the fashion, and the costumes, because I know absolutely nothing about fashion, nothing at all. But I am aware, as you mentioned at the beginning, that the costumes are a very big part of this show, and also that they change as the time goes on. So the show began the show began being set in 1912 when the sinking of the Titanic, and now we're in 1927. And there has even been some drama in the show around the costumes, or the clothes. I remember once there was Lady Sybil showed up in pants.
Like, whoa,
she's wearing
pants.
I think it all looks very beautiful. I'm not as big of a fan of the, like, what is it, the sort of flappery type. There's no waistline. Yeah. I really liked, I don't know if these are actually called tiaras, but they felt like tiaras, like Edith having stars on her forehead. I thought that was beautiful. So talk to us about the fashion in Downton Abbey and the movie, but also just kind of what are we seeing here?
So this is definitely like a 20s into 30s style. And we know that in the 20s, that was when we had flapper styles, people kind of binding their chests down and trying to look as straight as possible.
Okay.
As far as I understand it, I think part of that had to do with kind of shortages as far as fabrics, because after the war, people didn't want to have to create and also working in factories, they didn't want to be wearing corsetry. Women didn't want to be wearing corsetry in factories, and they didn't have as much time to make these really elaborate, like 1910 gowns, you know?
Right.
So we started moving into this kind of era where women are binding themselves and trying to look very straight up and down, which I'm very glad we've moved out of that era. I would not have fared well in those fashions. So
that would have been great for me. I'd be like, I don't need to do anything.
No, and that's the thing. That is the cool thing about the era that we're in. Despite the fact that a lot of clothes are not made for my body type, there are clothes for every body type.
That is true. Yes.
Which is nice. But you also are seeing the women are actually allowed to wear makeup a little more in this era. In the early 1900s, not like that was considered like you were a lady of the night if you had on your face.
Got it.
You can see that these women are like starting to embrace makeup a little bit more. And it's, oh my gosh, like the designs are fantastic. And one of the things I love about Downton Abbey is that every character really dresses as their character. So Mary's clothing really matches her personality, and Edith's really matches her personality. And it was cool. I actually enjoyed the scene where Edith's dress was too big. And we got to see kind of, and this wasn't like, I just thought it was interesting to see kind of what she wears underneath, her undergarments for that dress. I had not known that was kind of what they were still wearing underneath those gowns. I thought that was fascinating. So the fashions are gorgeous, and I love. I will briefly mention that the fact that the Dowager is still in older fashions, that's actually pretty. That was standard for the time, as far as I understand it. Older women would kind of stick with what they were comfortable with.
Yes.
especially given that she is able to afford all of those things still.
Right.
Whereas the younger women are embracing the newer fashions.
Yeah, that's interesting. And the haircuts too. Everybody, even Anna, has really short hair now. Like, yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, that's good. And I think, right, because Isabel Crawley, also Matthew's mom, doesn't also seems to sort of, right, she's younger, I guess, than Violet. So she's, but she seems to still be in her own time period, whatever that may be.
Yeah. No, because I think was pretty standard, is that women of an older age would just kind of stay with the older fashions. And I mean, it's interesting that Cora is actually wearing more 1920s fashion, but it sort of makes sense because she is younger than the other two, Isabel and Violet. So
right.
Yeah, you can kind of tell where people are in their own fashion journey.
Yes.
Which is fun.
Did you have a favorite dress from the movie? Yeah.
I mean, Mary always wears something gorgeous. It's sticking in my head, and I don't know if it was actually my favorite, but her dress from the very last scene, which when I first looked at it, I was like, is that a zebra print?
Yeah.
I was like, that is very modern. Then when it pulled back, you could see it was kind of like a sequined, beaded dress. She always looks great. I mean, she is made for 20s fashion. That Michelle Dockery is like made for it. She looks incredible. Yeah,
she looks great. Yeah, I really liked that ball scene at the end where everybody was wearing their fanciest clothes. So we're almost out of time, and it felt to me like the movie was definitely leaving the door open for a sequel. Like it kind of wrapped everything up. So if people want to go see it, I feel that you can definitely just experience this movie. But there was one little part at the end that made me feel like, maybe they're leaving this door open. If there was a sequel, what would you like to see from a sequel?
Ooh, that's a good question. Well, probably I would really like to see, because we didn't get to see it so much in this movie, I'd like to see more about Marion and Henry's relationship.
Yes.
I'd love to see the developing relationship for Tom.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to see some drama with Edith. I want to see Edith dealing with some drama as like this really rich, now that she's the head of her own household, woman. Like I'm dying to see that, because I honestly think it would be really funny. I think she would probably have some sass that we haven't gotten to see too much lately.
Yes. Yeah. No, those are all good. I think it's funny that Edith has this sort of existential crisis in the movie, where now that she is whatever she is, a marchioness. I'm not sure what she is.
I know, right? I don't even know.
Some very high up
Italian, I think.
And and she has this kind of conflict with her husband, and like half of the conflict gets solved, but the other half is still there, which is that she is still this. She misses her work. She used to work for the magazine. So I think she definitely is going to have some kind of reckoning where she can't just be this.
Just uppity lady
right? She's gonna want to do something else. So that would be nice. And I really loved. I thought that the person that Branson was interested in was that
moving towards.
Yeah, it was a really great pick for him. I liked that scenario, but it would be nice to see where that goes. I definitely left that open.
Yes, I think that would probably be the central focus, just because, or at least. Maybe not the central focus. I can see the next movie being like The Wedding, like that.
Right.
Since they're not doing like hugely dramatic plot premises, I would say probably something like that seems like it could definitely be the premise for their next movie. Is like, Tom's wedding is happening. Oh my gosh, Downton's in a hectic flurry.
Right, and we're having all this drama because he doesn't want to do the grand wedding, but everybody wants this magical Downton wedding.
Exactly.
Yes, that would be fantastic. Okay, the sequel. You heard it here first. The sequel, Downton Abbey, The Wedding. So we are out of time, but I just wanted to say thank you so much for being on the show, Abby. And this was a lovely conversation.
Thanks for having me.
It's my pleasure. I hope you'll come back. So again, Classically Abby can be found anywhere on social media and on YouTube as Classically Abby. And it's been a pleasure. Everybody else should remember to check and all my social media for what's coming up next. I'm doing a series of videos next about the original fairy tales behind Disney princess movies. So everybody should check that out. So thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for being here, Abby, and we'll see you next time.